Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum. Peace be unto you. Welcome to 2 Samuel chapter 14, in which there are 33 verses. In verse 2, we see again cunning versus wise, talking about the woman. In verse 7, even your heir versus your heir also, which means in addition to, or it can mean in addition to your heir. Verse 10, a significant difference. It says here, and the king said, who was it that spoke to you? We seem to get a clue or a hint that King David has an inkling of an idea that it's not actually her, the lady, that was inspired to come up with these words. It was someone else who influenced her. He's already hinting at that. You shall even bring him to me, the one that spoke to you, and one shall not touch him anymore. So whoever this person is, bring him to me, and he won't be touched anymore. In the Masoretic, it reads like this. And the king said, whosoever saith aught unto you, whoever said anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall not touch you anymore. So he won't be influencing you anymore. So keep you in isolation. The focus is on her, not so much keeping him in isolation, or keeping her son perhaps protected, as she alluded to earlier, that she's talking about her son. In verse 11, it says here, multiplied to destroy. So the avenger of blood is multiplied to destroy. So many people are taking it upon themselves to be the avenger of blood in her community, to destroy anymore. So verses lest they destroy. Okay, my son. Oh, I should say, okay, that's not the right one. It says multiplied to destroy. Let's rewind. Verse 11, multiplied to destroy in the Septuagint. In the Masoretic, it says, you would not suffer the avengers of blood to destroy anymore. So what is the difference? The Septuagint, it's saying these avengers of blood are being multiplied to destroy. Many people are taking it upon themselves, or the avengers of blood are multiplying in number. It's not just one person. Many people want this justice to be served. Versus in the Masoretic text, it's saying, you, King David, will not allow these avengers of blood to destroy anymore. Don't let them kill. Okay, so that's verse 11. Verse 13 says, as a transgression versus as one which is faulty or guilty can be taken to mean. So is this word out of the king's mouth as a sin? So that's a strong accusation. Versus, for the king does speak this thing as one which is faulty, which is guilty. So that's also strong. They're both pretty accusatory. Verse 14, we shall surely die, versus we must needs die. We must die. God shall take the life, versus neither does God respect any person. Okay, so that is a significant difference in verse 14 as well. So God will take the life, versus God does not respect any person. Then it says here, even as he devises to thrust forth from him his outcast. So is this talking about Elohim, God, or David? Even as he decides to thrust forth from him his outcast, who is, we're talking about Absalom. Versus does he yet, or doth he devise means that his banished be not expelled from him? So that seems to be alluding to David, not Elohim. So let's read that again. Now we're going to replace he with David. Elohim shall take the life, even as King David devises to thrust forth from King David his outcast, who is Absalom. So it makes a little more sense to me anyway. In the Masoretic, it reads like this: Yet doth King David devise means that King David's banished, Absalom, be not expelled from King David. Okay, it's a little more confusing in the Masoretic. So let's reword it again. Absalom be not expelled from King David. So that's how it reads in the Masoretic. Whereas in the Septuagint, it sounds like King David is the one planning to thrust forth Absalom. Okay. All right, verse 15. The people will see me. The people will see me versus the people have made me afraid. So she is concerned about the people's opinion of her. Whereas in the Septuagint, it says here, I came to speak this word to my lord the king. The reason is the people will see me, and your handmaid will say, let one speak to my lord the king. If peradventure the king will perform the request of his handmaid. So is she afraid of the people in the Septuagint? No, it seems she is saying the people will be watching, and she wants to be one who takes initiative. That's what it seems to mean to me anyway. Versus let, and then it says here, let one now speak to my lord, versus I will speak to the king. Although she is taking initiative, she is saying, your handmaid will say, let one speak to my lord. So she's not inserting herself into that, but she is subtly taking initiative because she knows she's the one who's standing up. No one else is going to speak. So she's doing so in a polite way. She's expressing this this plan of hers in a polite way. Verse 16, the king will hear, period. Let him rescue his handmaid out of the hand of the man that seeks to cast out me and my son. So why is she doing this? Perhaps the king will perform the request of his handmaid, because the king will hear. So she is saying, you are merciful, you are compassionate, you will hear. That's who you are. Versus the Masoretic saying, it may be that the king will perform the request of his handmaid, period. For the king will hear. Why? To deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man that would destroy me and my son. So she's giving rationale in the Masoretic where, again, this seems to be more of a translator's difference, not so much a textual difference. It's more, it's more of a question of where do you insert the punctuation? Do you insert it here, after, for the king will hear, period, or is this a comma connecting these two sentences? I lean towards the Septuagint translator's opinion. It just makes more sense. Because she's giving the rationale, yes, let him rescue his handmaid out of the hand of the man. For the king will hear, it's going to hear in order to deliver. I mean, they make sense, just a long run-on sentence. Okay, so leave it at that. Verse 7. If now the word of my lord the king be gracious, okay, versus the word of my Adon the king shall now be comfortable. Okay, that's quite different. Be peaceful. Okay, so that is a significant difference to me. So she's saying he is gracious, he's merciful, versus his word will be comfortable. It's going to be peaceful. It's going to be consoling me. It's going to comfort me. That's not what it is. It's graciousness. He's showing his mercy, his kindness. Verse 21. Done to you, I have done to you according to this word. This is King David speaking to Joab. I have done to you according to this, your word. So whatever you told me specifically to do, I have accomplished it. Versus, behold, now I have done this thing. What thing? It's very vague. You did something. I don't know what it is. Whereas in the Septuagint, King David is very specific. Verse 22, blessed the king versus thanked the king. Verse 25, describing Absalom, so very comely. There was not a man in Israel so very comely, which means attractive, versus none to be so much praised as Absalom. Why? For his beauty. So it's quite similar, just expressed differently. Okay, in verse 26, we see the royal shekel versus the king's weight, which is just another way to express that. Verse 27, talking about the daughter of Absalom now, named his daughter after his sister, Tamar. Her name was Tamar. She was also, insert also, but she was a very beautiful woman versus fair countenance. So she only had a beautiful face, or a pretty face, attractive face. Whereas in the Septuagint, she's very beautiful all around, just head to toe. Doesn't specify only her face. There's an omission as well in this verse saying, and she, Tamar, becomes the wife of Rehoboam, son of Solomon, and she bears to him Abiah. So we're given more information. And then verse 30, another omission. More information has been omitted, but is provided to us in the Septuagint. It describes what the servants of Absalom did. It says here, I should say the servants of Joab. And the servants of Joab come to him, Joab, with their clothes rent. And they said to him, the servants of Absalom have set the field on fire. So we have a deleted scene here, essentially. But very important to the story. Verse 32, now behold, I have not seen the face of the king. Absalom speaking to Joab, I have not seen my father. I have not seen the face of the king. Verses, now therefore, let me see the king's face. So one, he's just presenting reality, the facts. Fact is, I have not seen the face of the king. But he's alluding to, that he wants to see his father. Why did I come to Geshur? It would be better if I remained there. But now I haven't seen the king's face. How long? I believe it's been 2 years, something like that. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2 full years. Verse 28. Verse 32 in the Masoretic reads like this. Therefore, let me see the king's face. So he's ordering Joab around. That's not what he's doing in the Septuagint. He's simply implying, he's alluding, he's kind of hinting at the reality of the situation. So, he wants to see the king's face, just not being forceful about it. Okay, and then he eventually does see his father, and even bowing before him, and then King David kissing his son Absalom. So that's all for this chapter. Thank you very much for your time. Till next time, I bid you all Shalom Aleichem. Yivarechacha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you, and Maranatha.